Hey folks, this is immigration attorney Hassan Abdullah hailing from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm providing this video to discuss the topic of political asylum. Now, I'm just going to give basically a lot of my personal insights and experiences on the process and explain some things that you might not be aware of, that you might not be able to find through research on your own on the process, based on my own experience. And I've handled dozens of affirmative asylum cases, and I've also represented a few clients in immigration court for defensive asylum. So, first of all, I want to explain that asylum is something that you should have some kind of corroborating evidence for. And if you're watching this video, you probably have done a little bit of research on on asylum itself. And as a refresher, as a recap, to qualify for asylum, you have to show that you have a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, and political opinion, or membership in a social group. Basically, immutable characteristics. What this means is it's something about you that you can't really change. Either it's something that you're born with, or you rang a bell and you can't unring a bell. For example, if you speak out against a government, and that government then considers you to be some kind of you know, considers it an act of sedition. What they would do is they would, if they go after you, if you're going to be persecuted on that basis, maybe your life is in danger. That is something, you've rung a bell, you can't unring the bell, and so that is an immutable characteristic as well. That's basically one way to look at it. The way it's been framed is that you have something about you that makes it dangerous for you to go back to your home country. That's one way to look at it, really, to simplify it. So you have to have a well-founded fear based on past persecution, or a reasonable fear based on your future, based on persecution in the future. So past persecution, you're going to have to document that. You're going to have to establish that with some proof. And so, since the Real ID Act was passed, you have to have something to corroborate your claim for asylum. So if you don't have any evidence to support your claim of asylum, because the thing about asylum is you can't just come up with a story and think that I will tell this story, I will memorize it, and then I will tell the judge or I will tell the immigration officer about it, and I'm going to win my asylum case. Because you have to come off as credible. They are going to challenge you, and you better be prepared to support your case as well. Now, there is sort of a exception. If you can explain why there's no corroborating evidence for your claim, and it's a reasonable explanation, and you have something to corroborate why you can't corroborate your evidence, then you might be able to apply for asylum. So it's not a strict requirement, but you should understand that you should be able to establish it in some way. So you should be collecting some kind of evidence. And the evidence for asylum that will be looked at is, first of all, evidence of your past persecution, and second of all, country conditions. Okay, so you're going to need to provide human rights reports. You're going to find articles, and if you have articles where you are named as a victim of some kind of persecution, that would be absolutely, it would be gold. If that you have that kind of evidence, that would be perfect. But that's in a perfect world. Most asylum cases, you don't have that kind of evidence. Now, don't let that be something to deter you from applying for asylum if you have a thin amount of evidence. But just keep in mind, evidence is very important. Another thing that I should explain is that asylum is a very human process, the whole process of political asylum. And what I mean by that is the person who's judging your case is a human being, and it could be a judge, and it could be an immigration officer, asylum officer. And everyone has biases of their own, so you have to keep that in mind. And something that really illustrates this point is if you look up asylum judge approval rates, it should lead you to a website, and I may also provide a link here that shows you how the rates are different, and it varies from different jurisdictions. So if you look at the immigration court in Miami, for example, the asylum approval rate is quite low. I can't remember exactly, but it's quite different there compared to San Francisco, the San Francisco Asylum Court, which is the immigration court that I have experience working, representing clients. So I would say that actually the Bay Area is the most friendly, one of the most friendly courts for asylum, but there's still a few judges in the Bay Area also who might have quite high denial rates as well. So as you can see, the judge who you get, it plays a role in your chance of success. But if you present a good case, and even if you get a decision that's a denial, because you have a judge who might be difficult in some way, and maybe they didn't properly, you might disagree with their conclusions and their decision, you can still appeal the case to the Board of Immigration Appeals. And even if you're denied at the Board of Immigration Appeals, you could still appeal to the Circuit Court, and then from there to the Supreme Court. Now, it's very rare that an asylum case gets to the Supreme Court, but you should realize that there are a lot of avenues, a lot of paths, and an asylum case can be dragged on for quite some time. There's another thing that I also wanted to discuss, which is the one-year bar. You have to apply for asylum within 1 year of entering the United States. But there are exceptions to the bar, okay? The exceptions would be changed in country conditions. So if you're here and the conditions that make you afraid to go back, that you fear you're going to be persecuted, if they took place recently, and even if you've been in the U.S. for several years out of status, and these things changed in the country recently, you can then apply for asylum, but you have to hurry, you have to apply as soon as possible, within a reasonable time. And reasonable would be, at least a couple of months, or no more than a few months. Another thing is mental or physical incapacity that might prevent you from applying for asylum could be another thing. And believe it or not, maintaining status is also considered an extraordinary circumstance for you to still apply for asylum even after the 1 year bar. And there's another trick. This is kind of a trick. And I've never done it in practice yet, but I am familiar with a colleague of mine, with an attorney who's done this, which is his client had been in the U.S. for a long period of time, and he had been in the U.S. for without legal status. By the way, I keep saying legal status. Again, if you're maintaining lawful status for several years and then it terminates, you can still apply for asylum because maintaining status is an exception to the 1 year rule. But another thing is, let's just say you've been here without status, you've been here unlawful presence for more than a year, and you leave the country and then you come back. You will reset the clock. It just shouldn't be a casual trip, though. If you just go to Canada or Mexico for a little bit and then come back to the U.S. after spending a lot of time without legal status, you can come back and your clock will be reset and you'll be able to apply for asylum. But still, I would imagine there'd be a degree of skepticism if someone were to do something like that. Because the whole purpose, you're trying to dodge that safeguard of the clock. So your claim for asylum, I'm sure, would be viewed with some skepticism. So, I mean, we're getting close to the 10-minute mark. I don't want to make my videos longer than that, for the most part. So I hope that what I provided here has given you some ideas of and some insight on political asylum that you may not have had. And of course, if you have any further questions, our law firm and I myself practice in immigration, asylum, defensive and affirmative asylum, and of course, we would be happy to answer any further questions in a consultation. So I hope this video has been helpful, and keep watching, and thanks for watching this one. Bye for now.